Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, as promised, we are going to conduct our Elements of Handicapping series on the Preakness. And for those of you who are new to this, we did this for the Derby, and it would involve the four corners of handicapping, which are form, class, speed, and pace. And for this session, we're going to talk about form. So let's take a look at the contenders. This is the Preakness 148 contender analysis. And we're going to concentrate on the four corners of handicapping: form, class, speed, and pace. Part one is form. It's the evaluation of each contender's performance to date and how it will impact their run on the Preakness. Blazing Sevens is our first, and Chad Brown has intimated that this one will run. We should say right off the bat that the field isn't completely cast in stone yet. But we're pretty sure Blazing Sevens is going to run. You see, he got a third in the Bluegrass Stakes for his second start of the year, and we can draw a line through that Fountain of Youth. That was a paid workout. He needed a race. But he acquitted himself pretty well in the Bluegrass Stakes. I thought he ran a pretty good third coming from off the pace. And I think, coming into the Preakness third off the layoff, I think he'll be in good shape. And let's not forget, Chad Brown's had some very good success in the Preakness, most notably with last year with early voting. Chasing Chaos has been running out west, and he won the El Camino Real on synthetic. And but you see in the San Felipe and later in the California Derby, which was also on synthetic, he really didn't run very well at all. So I think his form is very suspect coming into this race, and I'll consider him to be pretty much nothing more than a pace factor at this point. Confidence Game, I think, ran a pretty good Derby. He was up on a hot pace, and, I think he ended up 10th. So I think he did a pretty good job staying in the race, and off a 70-day layoff, running fresh, I think he did pretty well. We remember the Rebel Stakes winning in the mud, and, I thought the distance might have been the max for him, as he was on the wrong lead all the way down the stretch and drifting out, and looked like he was totally exhausted. Pretty much it's a wonder he won, and it was in the mud. But he redeemed himself in my eyes in the Derby. I thought he did a pretty good job. The cutback in distance, I think, is going to help him, as well as the small field, and I think he'll be up on and near the pace. So he gets a B because I think he's second off the layoff. I think he might be in store for a pretty good race. Disarm, ran a nice Derby, I thought. There was a time there watching it up on the turn that I thought he was looking really good to win the thing. But he ended up fourth, and I think it was a pretty good fourth. Considering the training schedule that he's been on, and they sort of rushed him along, and he got the Louisiana Derby, we all remember Kings Barnes with a deadly slow pace, and so hard to evaluate him from that. The Lexington, I think he just was, he got the third because that's what he needed to get in the Derby. But in the Derby, I thought he ran a really solid race, and Steve Asmussen's really good at keeping his horses running well for long periods of time. So I think that bodes well for the Preakness, and he gets a B+. I think he's a contender. First Mission is kind of the now horse. We all remember that Lexington where he put away Arabian Lion, and did so. He showed a lot of professionalism, I thought, in how he did it, for it was only his third start. I would like to see him face the upper echelon Derby contenders to truly evaluate him, and he's going to get his chance to a degree facing Mage and some others in the Preakness, but I think he's coming into the race in pretty good form, and I think for that he gets a B+. Henry Q was running out in New Mexico in Sunland Park, and the Mind That Bird Derby, he won that for fun. I don't think he faced anything, and he won by 14 lengths on the front end. The Sunland Derby, I thought they'd take him back, but instead he stayed up there at a brutally hot pace and still ended up for third, and I thought that was to his credit to hang in there that long. Doug O'Neill can be very dangerous when he's under the radar with a horse, and I think this one has some talent. But his form, the Sunland Derby, I thought he could have run a more professional race, and so that gives me a little bit of concern, but we'll see how this one trains, but he could be a sleeper to get in the money at the very least. Mage, of course, we know, the Kentucky Derby winner. What a great race. He broke slow in that one again. He broke poorly, and so that is still a problem, and we can't lose sight of that. But he obviously didn't disappoint. He ran a fantastic race and gets all the credit in the world. And he's certainly on the upward trend. And if he run, I don't think there's any reason to believe that he's not going to run another big one in the Preakness. So he's coming to this race in great shape, I think. National Treasure is become a bit of an enigma. They tried to get him into the Derby by bringing him to the Santa Anita Derby. He had missed a little training with a gash on his leg, I believe, and he ran an okay fourth. I mean, he just didn't seem to have the stretch. Maybe he needed one after a bit of a layoff. So he is coming to this race second off the layoff and with a little extra freshening. So I think this one still has some talent. And I think back under Bob Baffert's care, I mean, we could really see something. So he's another one, a little under the radar that I think I like coming in. Perform ran, if you haven't seen the Federico Tessio Stakes, you got to go back and watch that. That was one of the greatest rides I've ever seen a horse get. He was boxed in. He had nowhere to go. Traffic. He had to duck in or duck out, back in again. And how he got up to the wire is beyond me, but it was a fantastic race. He'd been kind of marginal prior to that, but he is in the hands of Shug McGahee, and he's obviously on the upward trend. Gets a C+ because I don't know what he really faced in that race, but I think he's coming into the Preakness in good form, and so we'll see. Red Round 1, we all remember. He finally got a win in the Bathhouse Row, and he was up a little closer this time, and that's what we've been waiting to see, is getting him engaged into the race a little sooner. We know from the Southwest, the Rebel in the Arkansas Derby, he was just too far back. He had way too much to do and wasn't able to get the job done. I think it finally got the better of him in the Arkansas Derby, but he rebounded nicely in the Bathhouse Row. He still was awful lucky to win it, and I still, with his late running style, in this race in particular, I don't know how much pace there's going to be. So we've got to wonder about this one a little bit. But I think he's coming into the race in pretty good form, and so I think we can take him seriously. Well, just looking at form, you can see there's not a lot of early pace in this race either. So a horse like First Mission could basically have the run of it on the front end and steal it. You never know. If Mage continues to break poorly, he'll be at a disadvantage. And so lightning could strike. A little early to tell yet, but it looks from that perspective like it might be a pretty interesting race. So we'll just have to see how things develop. We will have Part 2 class for you in the very near future, so be on the lookout for that, as well as our continued Belmont Card Series. We'll have a sequence every day they have racing. And, of course, if you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe. And we thank you for coming by. I'll be talking to you real soon, and until then, be well.